Welcome to Perceptions Today podcast, where we discuss consciousness in all forms. May 2022, episode 28, Christa de Mayo joins us in a roundtable about lucid dreaming, part 3 of 3. Christa de Mayo is an independent researcher of lucid dreaming, myths, plants, and much more.
Yeah, I think those tools, those practices are absolutely fantastic. I am so glad that you are sharing these tools. And I know you have said something for the most part about creating that your own symbolism. And I fully agree with you, because if you really think about it, we're creating a language. It's like we're programming our computer, like a computer code. And one of the things that I've always expressed when...
This is an instance of the conversation coming up in the roundtable discussion. Participants knew it was being recorded.
One twin, for instance, may get the words intuitively for a beautiful song, but yet they don't write music. And then the other twin comes into your life and literally can't write the words, but writes the music. And then this way, overall, the words and the music come together, but the message, it's not just to write a song, become popular and like make $1 million. That's not what it's about. It's about that song and that music actually moving humanity, whether like calming the savage soul, for instance, or bringing that beauty for expansion in one form or another. So again, it's like the only thing I can speak on is my experience and experience that are qualifying that other twin flames have. And I will say this again, I truly would not wish being a twin flame on anyone, just because of the sheer magnitude of what is presented before them.
Can I speak, Paul?
Yes.
You can, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
For those who know, I actually know Azur, and it's not the fact that she's having a bit of a strange day asking these questions. It's fine. Continue.
I can stop asking the questions. It's fine.
No. It's fine. It's just that if anyone listens later on, it's going to sound a very odd response. The way you said, "Can I ask a question now?" when we've been talking for many months. So continue.
Sorry. So if it's not twin flame, what is it if you connect with another person then?
It
Do
could
you
be
understand
a twin.
what I'm saying?
Yes. It would be a twin soul. That would be where you have an actual romantic desire, a sexual compatibility, all of that. It would kind of go along the lines of like as above, so below. So in the physical realm that we all live in, actual opposites attract. Okay, so it's male, female, light, dark, within that scope. As a generality, we're not getting into the other stuff, but as a generality, the opposites will attract. That's why we have male and female. In the etheric level, like attracts like. So the like, it would be the essence of the vibrational frequency for what, like my husband and I carry. So you can ask yourself if, for instance, I mean, it's like I said, my husband and I were not physically attracted to each other whatsoever. Not a bit. He's not my...
Hang on. Right, Shadow Fox. That's going to sound so bad at some stage. Someone's going to take that out of context. You do love him on an emotional level, don't you?
Well,
Let her finish.
He would literally be the first person to tell you the same thing.
Lee, come here. I will give you a shoulder to cry on. Don't worry, Lee.
Yeah, he is here, and he's cracking up because no, this is part of our story. This is what we're trying to say. What the difference of a twin is, and
that's okay. It's not a Disney story. Continue. I'm just going to go and get my box of tissues. Hang on.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get him and he can qualify this, because honestly, this is the part that we're trying to state what the difference is. We just were not attracted to each other in that format. And it's like, really, you're on, just everybody's here and they're listening to you. So would you please tell them, were you attracted to me when we first met sexually in any capacity?
Do they understand Martian?
Lee, I'm consoling with you now. I really am. I've really got this kind of, my heart goes out to you after the conversations we've had.
I suppose we most of us anyhow have some sort of, I don't know if you'd call it ideal, but a desire for a certain physique, a certain color of hair or eye color, whatever, or the whole thing. And we had none of that.
None of that. However, and this was what was really strange, and the difference is that when we were in the same vicinity, even when we weren't, and we would meditate, say we had a seed thought and we would be in a meditation group, literally we would journal afterwards or write down something, and we would have a seed thought, some place to go or something to look at, and literally our words would be pretty much word for word. I would say blue, he would say light blue. There are little differences there, but overall, to have two people have that same experience and write it. So some of the experiences that we have were absolutely phenomenal. We were in we had done a class one time. It was a different technique for meditation for a past life review. And we were in a group, and he was on one side of the room and I was on the other. We were broken up with different people, four different groups. And that one was literally, what word would you say for that? That experience?
Remarkable.
Yeah, and we would just say it would be remarkable. He gave his experience of what had happened. He was in a cave. There was a light in the cave. He was going to die, and he kept wishing for death, and it wouldn't happen. And actually, I was in the cave with him, but I was not in the physical realm. And I was there to be there when he passed, to help him. And I was that light that was in that cave. So these are just phenomenal experiences. And we have it written down. This is one of the experiences we wrote in our upcoming book. But this is really something. We're just trying to make the distinction between the differences of them. So I will leave that, because Paul, you asked.
Yeah, I would just like to say that when there's some time you and Paul can talk, and look at the machine.
Yeah, yeah, you're on.
I can hear you. It's okay.
She can tell you about our experience. We were not together. We were not physically together. We were miles apart, living different places. And on a telephone, we both took a trip, the same trip. And she can tell you what happened there. But it's too lengthy a story to submit now.
So like I said, there's just so many different examples. And how do you know these things? It's through our experiences. And they're quite common with actual twin flames. So not that other people don't have these experiences. That's not what we're saying. But there is a distinct difference in what the messaging and the dual purpose is. So I'll leave it with that. You asked, Paul.
I am now regretting that. But one day we'll definitely have a conversation with you as the guest, and we will field obviously light and sound questions on the healing and consciousness aspect if Lee's up for that, because I'm sure he would like to participate in one of those.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be fun.
Oh, definitely. Back to you, Christa. Oh, by the way, Red, who's in the actual room here, is saying that he dreams in such high detail in color, and almost like you would have to qualify it as 4D kind of way. And again, from the books that most of us have probably been reading, who have been reading into the shamanic way, and also people using psychedelics for the right reasons and the right dosages, etc., and looking at ayahuasca, normally when people are going on these experiences, they're having the same color intensity in color sensation, and saying it's more real than real. I'm trying to post something into the actual share group. It doesn't seem to be going there, but that was something he wanted to put in there. So back to yourself, Christa.
Yeah, one of the earlier lucid dreams I had, what helped me realize that I was dreaming was I was kind of overwhelmed with the magnitude and the pulsing nature of the vibrancy of the color. It was just almost hard to receive how colorful the colors were. It was like they were neon and they were alive. I mean, it was so out of the ordinary that anomaly helped me realize that I was dreaming. And I did want to talk about using substances and herbs in relation to lucid dreaming, because I've got opinions on it. And as a foundation, I am an herbalist. I wildcraft, I grow medicine, I take medicine, I use medicine.
Christa, you might want to define what wildcrafting is for, again, new people who are new to this area, if that's okay with you.
Sure. Wildcrafting is when you go into a place where a native plant grows and you harvest the usable parts at the appropriate time of year. So I live in Western North Carolina, and we have a lot of traditional medicine that grows in the woods here. So one of my favorites is hawthorn. I gather hawthorn berries and leaves to make teas and tinctures with. So wildcrafting is just the act of identifying a medicinal plant and harvesting that plant and then preparing that plant in a medicine. Usually it's drying it for a tea or tincturing it in alcohol.
So that's different, obviously, from the foraging aspect to just getting it for food. You're going for what it will actually be useful for others and helping out, like rose hips and all those bits and pieces. Yeah. Yeah,
foraging is pretty close. I guess I consider foraging more for like just food, but people forage for mushrooms, and mushrooms have medicinal quality. Herbs are food, so I associate wildcrafting with herbs more than I do with foraging with food, but essentially the same thing. So there are people that successfully use and historically have used herbs to help them get to sleep and to help them have a clear mind, help them remember their dreams, help them remember things in the day. I mean, plant medicine is useful. It works. And some people have had success using dream herbs to get them to a lucid state. And I feel like that they're a tool that can be used successfully and fairly gently to get you to that point where you can become lucid. And I would suggest, if you want to try out lucid dreaming, that using a dream tea or a dream tincture can help you kind of get over that hump of not being able to lucid dream. For me, I don't use them because I'm on this journey as partially an empowerment thing, but also for my own spiritual reasons. I want to get there on my own. And I am kind of a purist for myself, specifically, of getting to that point on my own. And as one of the reasons why I choose that for myself is that because I work with plants, and I put 2 books up in the feed. There's the Garuda's Spiritual Properties of Herbs, which is a really great channeled herb book. And then there's Monica Gagliano's Thus Spoke the Plant. She answers something.
Excellent book.
I love that book. And one of her earlier stories in that book, she receives she ingests a plant and she receives information about that plant in her dreams. She received this information from the plant. And if you are familiar with plant medicine at all, so much of the plant you learn by experiencing it, growing it, harvesting it, consuming it. But that plant's job is to provide its information to you. And an example of a psychedelic that people don't use as much anymore, but they did in the 60s and 70s was peyote. And people would ingest peyote to get them to another space, a hallucinatory other reality. And so much of the experience that they had was like amazing and beautiful. But for me, because I'm using lucid dreaming for a very specific reason, I feel like I would be riding on the coattails of the herb to get me to that point, and I don't want to do that. That's not to judge anyone for choosing to do that, but for me, it is vital for me to get there on my own. And part of that is because the plant gives you its information of itself, regardless of what you ingest, whether it's hallucinogenic or not. I feel like I would be only looking through the filter of my dream world through the information the plant is giving me, if that makes sense. It's like the plant's information is indistinguishable from my dream because the plant is what brought me to that space.
Definitely, because if you read up on people like Jeremy Narby, when he goes and visits tribes, he actually gets the same information from their wise men and shamanic people. Please do not say anything for a minute due to the fact that my phone is going to possibly die. I need to swap it on to good old power, and the audio might change for a little bit. Otherwise, we'll lose this whole room. So I think we're all quite in agreement that we want to keep the room open, don't we?
Yeah.
Hum amongst yourselves while I quickly do this. And we're back. So please continue.
So to follow up on that, I really do want to reiterate, like I don't have judgment against anybody that wants to use plants to get them to be able to lucid dream. And I think some people really do need it. They need that carrier to get them to a place that they have not experienced yet. And one thing that it can be really useful for is to bring you to the point where you can lucid dream so that you can recognize what a lucid dream is. Because if you've never had one before, it's really hard to describe the magnitude of it. It's like trying to describe what an orgasm is to someone. Like you can describe it, but until you're in that space, it's really impossible to encapsulate the magnitude of it, right? So I don't disparage anyone at all for using herbs. I think that they have a place and I think that they're useful. And if you just want to have fun with lucid dreaming and you're not doing it for spiritual or health reasons, then I would say like they'll be incredibly handy. And I would encourage you to use it because it's a way for you to engage with medicine that maybe you hadn't had experience with. But to kind of tie in a lot of what we've all talked about, one thing that I feel like is a benefit of practice of dreaming, whether you're in a lucid state or not, but paying attention to what your dreams are showing you and recording them in the day and paying attention to that part of your life. It's kind of like when you have deja vu or you have a small premonition. Paying attention to those little moments in life, I feel like sharpen an intuitive radar, for lack of a better word, that can be incredibly useful in bigger situations. So if you have a gut feeling about something or a hunch, if you listen to it most of the time, like 99% of the time, that was the right decision to make. That was the right way to go. Your gut is pretty much on the mark of what needs to happen. And sometimes your body knows what to do before your brain does. And similar in the dream world, if you pay attention to your dreams you will start to see patterns in your dreams, and you'll start to be able to use your dreams as kind of a compass to what you need to do. And that can mean anything. But I feel like just paying attention to the dreams, just like you pay attention to your hunches in the day, can really help, whether it's, honing and sharpening your pineal gland to be more intuitive, to open your third eye. To me, it just feels like it goes hand in hand with following kind of these mindful practices in the day. Mindful, paying attention to what your dreams are doing is just like being mindful and considerate and accepting things in the waking world. And when you have that, then if you start to have dreams that have more weight or feel more prophetic, you're going to have a clearer understanding. You're going to have more vocabulary for what these symbols mean for you, because you've worked at this and you've been working at it as kind of a self-discovery tool that will, to me, it just opens up more doors and gives you more vocabulary to kind of capture these magical moments that are always happening around us, but we're usually a bit too chaotic and a bit not paying attention to kind of recognize the magnitude of them when they happen. Are you there, Paul?
I'm here. I was just making sure everything was flying nicely and we were charging, which is always good. I think what you're coming up on with the ideas is fantastic, because people, as they go through their dreams during the night, are probably picking up small fragments of them during their working days as other things trigger them. And that's also another wild point to think that you've had this existence elsewhere and something random, which is not even related to the dream, triggers the dream information. And I've had things like that where I've gone along, seen, say, a teacup on the floor, and it's triggered information about, say, a cave system and an island that I was on at the time. And there's absolutely no correlation of why that should have triggered the memory recall of that particular dream. So I don't know if other people have the same kind of events that happen. I'm going to pick on Mike. Mike, does anything like that happen to you? Probably I've just picked on a man who's walked away from his phone, which is always the way.
I will kind of comment that, sometimes
Mike.
I'm sorry, Christa, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll wait till you're finished.
Well, I was just going to say that sometimes, dreams can be both and. They can be both incredibly meaningful and also just chaotic, because part of why we dream is to just sort information that we don't need anymore. I mean, we dream so that we can forget the unnecessary information. Like sometimes that teacup on the floor is just a visual memory that doesn't belong. So sometimes it's good to kind of have those seemingly random dreams, because a lot of that information is just our brains sweeping it into the bin. But sometimes, like Paul, like you said, sometimes it's got a little bit more potency of meaning. So that that's where the disconnect is, where people might think that dreams are all chaos and it's just our brains sorting itself out, or they're all meaningful. But I feel like human existence it's a combination of a few different things. Are you chopping something, Mike? It sounds like.
I think he is. As long as it's not a body.
I'm listening to your wonderful voice as I chop a grapefruit to combat the cold here in the Northeast. But yeah, I agree. I think, Christa, sometimes there are things that work from the outside into your dreams and things that work from the inside of your dreams to the outside. In other words, I've woken up with phrases that became the title of stories, or became ideas which almost sometimes fully formed. And then there are things that work, and I know, Paul, you know best about the Peter Rowan book that I'm working on. I was dreaming about Peter all the time. I mean, it was incredible, and conversations and stuff became.
I think you're going to have to quickly tell people a quick bio of his name, because some other people might not actually have a connection.
Sure. In real summary, so I do interviews with musicians, and through a kind of a lucky series of circumstances, I was introduced to, his name is Peter Rowan, and if you know bluegrass, he played with Bill Monroe, who's the father of bluegrass, but he also went on to have his own career. He played with Jerry Garcia. He moved on to spiritual and psychedelic, but spiritual music. He's a self-professed Buddhist. And anyway, when I was talking to him, and it was supposed to be a short article, and he's such an eloquent and interesting guy that I just, I was having these visions and dreams, and he thought I was crazy, I'm sure, but he was still curious. And I said, Peter, we need to talk more. There's stuff coming in. I need to, there's a project that is coming into my head, and I want to work with you on it. So anyway, just to answer your question, I mean, there's in all of these amazing resources of the stuff I couldn't have come up with, and a lot of the dream content is in the book, which will be out. Apparently, it's will be available for pre-order in March, but I'm not trying to sell it here and now. Just the experience and all of that. If that makes any sense to anyone.
It's worthwhile telling people to look at your work and your articles, which are on your website, which is MikeFiorito.com, all one word, and then they can make up their mind whether they want to buy it, but it's best to be known out there.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you.
And do you have grapefruit for everyone?
I have a whole mess of it. It's my way of battling the cold.
When you say you're battling the cold, you're not shoving them underneath the gaps of the door to keep the heat in or anything, are you?
Well, that's
not the way
one
you're doing
way to do it. But I feel if you have citrus, it's sort of it bolsters your immune system. In addition to the turkey tail that I take every day.
And that's a mushroom, by the way, everyone who doesn't know, it's a mushroom. He's not just picking feathers out the back of a turkey.
Right.
Otherwise, it sounds very odd when we play this back to other people.
Man, you keep me honest here, Paul, so thank you.
That's okay. You just provoke a mind which has probably too much imagination for its own good in my own head. And these images just flash through very quickly. Right, okay.
That's why we love you.
Thank you very much. I try to control it, honest, I do. Anyway, Christa, back to you.
I was just kind of going through my notes, and I feel like I covered what I wanted to talk about. And I wanted to wrap around to the beginning for people that might not have joined at the beginning, of just going through really quickly, because I feel like the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I want to encourage people to try it themselves. And so I'm just going to run through kind of bullet points of what I found successful for me, and to encourage anyone to try to lucid dream on their own. So if that's okay, Paul, I'll just run through that. And thanks for everybody for coming in and listening to us gab. So yeah,
and then you want to open the floor up after that, yeah?
Yep.
Excellent. I thought you were running away. I was just checking to see where you were going.
I mean, I'll run away eventually, but not quite yet.
Everybody has to leave someday. Yeah.
So the premise of lucid dreaming is to become aware that you're dreaming while you're still asleep. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to remember to do that because you're in an altered state, you're asleep. So how are you supposed to become aware in that moment? And what worked for me is setting the intention. So first wanting to do it and setting the intention, especially right when you go to sleep. So when you go to sleep, just, tell yourself, however you want to phrase it, I want to dream. I want to remember my dream. I want to lucid dream. You can have something specific like, I want to fly, or I want to open a door, or if I see someone, I want to shake their hand. Any sort of specific action where you have control, you have agency, whatever it is. I would encourage you to keep it simple, because when I started, I had this very convoluted, complicated thing I wanted to do, and I had to retract it all the way back to the beginning. So set the intention when you go to sleep that you want to remember your dreams, that you want to do something specific. And then when you wake up in the middle of the night, or if you've slept through the night, when you wake up first thing in the morning, write down anything that you remember from the dream. whether it's a single word or a key phrase or a color, anything. You do those two things where you kind of bookend your dream state when you go to sleep and when you wake up. And then during the day, outside of that, do something and just pick one thing. There's people that look at clocks, look away, look back at a clock and see if it's changed. You can do the same with words that are written down. You can look at a shadow to see if the shadow is doing what it's supposed to do, like mimicking your own movements. You can look at a reflection to see if the reflection is doing what it should do, like mimicking your own movements. You do this during the day, and maybe just pick one to start and do it every single day. Every time you see a mirror, look at your own eyes, look at your reflection, look away and look back at your reflection. And chances are, unless you're a vampire, you're going to see yourself and it's going to mimic what you're moving, right? So you get into this habit of doing that. And when you do that, whatever the action is, you think to yourself, is this real? Is this a dream? Is this really happening? Something to that effect where you're making yourself be incredibly present in the moment to say, is this happening? Is this reality? And what you're doing is you're training your brain to question reality literally in that moment. So if you do this multiple times a day, your brain is going to replicate that at night. Like an example is if you're on a boat all day long and you're kind of moving around and your body is used to that physical memory of being jostled around, when you're in a dream, chances are you're going to have a dream where you're on a boat because your body has that memory. So make yourself a physical memory that your brain will replicate. So you have the bookends where you set the intention and then you write things down. You have the intention of questioning reality during the day. And by doing this, just those practices over a period of time, and it may take weeks, it took me months, you're going to eventually hone enough, you're going to grow enough lucid dreaming muscles to be able to be active in the dream. A fourth one is that if you have a recurring dream of any kind, you can use that as the trigger. So it's a little bit more difficult, but that can sometimes be the gateway where if you have a dream about, like for me, it was going to the bathroom in public. If I have that enough, when I do have it, it can help me kind of think, I feel like I've been here before. Oh, maybe this is my dream. Oh, this is the dream where I have to go to the bathroom in front of people. So that can be kind of a fourth, but more tangential one. I find that the setting the intention, those bookends, and doing the reality checks help kind of start that. The biggest thing of all of those to do for me that I would encourage you to do is write it down, because writing it down will not only help hone that memory, it kind of honors the dream. It pulls some magic out of your dream world into the reality world. And if you get into the habit of writing things down, it's making you become reflective. And I feel like that in itself is such a good life skill to practice, of just being reflective. If you can be reflective of your own self, that's just a great start for so much. It just reverberates out. To be a reflective person, I think, is to be a good human, and it can manifest in all sorts of positive ways. But you can
I'd agree on that one. Sorry, I thought you paused.
Yeah.
I was going to say the reflection part is such a useful tool to see how you interact with the rest of the world and how you interpret other people's actions at the same time, whether you're reflective within a moment or whether it's months later. It is a beneficial muscle to kind of grow instead of just bulldozing your way through life. And possibly not you personally, Christa, but just as an individual, you could go through life and actually upset other people without realizing, without having that reflective ability. And the reflection part really does help out.
Yeah, and everyone thinks they live in the end times, but the times that we currently live in are very, very quick, very fast, very reactionary, and we react out of fear, and we react out of uncertainty, and we just are used to reacting. Like we have access to almost anything that we want. And there's this real kind of short-term gain and short-term loss life that we all participate in. And the act of reflection kind of nullifies that. You can reflect on one thing for a very long time and have perspective of it. And that is an antidote to, somebody just saying the wrong thing in public, and then suddenly their whole public world is just destroyed because of this one little thing. If you're reflective on things, you can see things in context and you can have compassion. And again, that's why I say it reverberates, to be able to have reflection on something. And then you can start with just yourself. You can start with your own dreams. I feel like it's just a beneficial thing, in addition to, I feel like it being helpful for a dreaming practice and a dreaming journey, to be able to see symbols and similar threads and narratives within your dreams as a reflection of yourself, as insight for yourself. I think that it's outside of the dream world, it's beneficial, but definitely within a dreaming practice. Shadow Fox, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think those tools, those practices are absolutely fantastic. I am so glad that you are sharing these tools. And I know you have said something for the most part about creating your own symbolism. And I fully agree with you, because if you really think about it, we're creating a language. It's like we're programming our computer, like a computer code. And one of the things that I've always expressed when I share this information with students too, is to for instance, vulnerability, being vulnerable in a dream. You could envision that for some people, it might be showing up naked in the dream, may be a vulnerability. However, other people may attribute that to, they're fully, like, they don't care. It's like they know their body, and they're just going to go with it. It's no big deal, kind of like, posing in Playboy. So that key element would carry, that symbolism would carry a very, very different meaning to someone else. So showing up naked may not be a vulnerability. So if we can, you had made a mention of qualifying those symbols, because that is part of, if you've qualified that, in the dreams, that information will absolutely be utilized. Just like you were saying, practice being in the present and seeing what that reality is. All of this is like that programming. It's creating your own language, and recognizing. So dream time, if there's a part in the dream where you're to recognize where you may be vulnerable, you may show up as being naked, for instance. And I just think, thank you so much for going through and kind of redoing that recap for everyone, because it's very important that we recognize we truly can gain a tremendous amount of information from dreams too. Information that resides within our subconscious, our conscious awareness, and even our superconscious awareness. And so sometimes it's just an idea of that emotional component that's driving. We could be upset about something in our everyday lives, and dream time can be utilized as a beautiful way of escape, to be able to see a larger picture. And then upon that, you can literally step forward in your life and go, oh, okay, this is where an error is, perhaps. So I'll leave it with that. But thank you so much for sharing that wisdom and expertise that you have on this. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
No, I think
and with that, we'll open it up to questions, Paul.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you very much for bringing all the content that you have. And I think when we go through opening up to the floor, the following up session that we're going to do on Zoom, for those who haven't got the ability to join us using smartphone apps with this conversation, we'll do again. And I think we can take it further with the way of lucid dreaming. Don't you think, Christa?
Yeah, definitely.
So if anybody wants to join in with a conversational topic around the dream area and how they felt it's either helped in a positive or a negative way, or just they have obviously strange dreams, then just put your hand up and we'll have a conversation from there on in.
And I'll just put in that I probably have about 20 or 30 minutes left of my time.
Okay, so then we'll make those conversational bits sharp and to the point, if anyone's got any. Because at the moment, I can't see any hands whatsoever. So, there's one. That's good. Estebel.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Maybe I misunderstood. You were talking about Zoom. That's another time, isn't it?
Yes.
It's going to be a future event.
Yeah.
We were discussing it today, whether we should do a two-parter like we did for the head trauma one. One of actually discussing it and then one of a review and seeing what we can take it further, which we haven't actually put a date together. And we'll just take a taster from the room to see if that is of interest to people. So whether you punch icons at the moment, 100% go for it and have another Zoom one. If not, there'll just be me and Christa in the room having a Zoom conversation. So one of the two.
That would be fine too.
Why Zoom, if I may ask?
Because some of the people that actually listen in on Twitter, they're only using the browser and they don't actually have the technology like a smartphone to join us in this Twitter space at this time. We've been finding that because the community is opening up further, they're bringing in people with different technologies and they don't overlap until we use something like StreamYard, which was suggested by Shadow Fox, where we're just doing like 5 or 10 people talking across different platforms. That would be okay. But because we like to sit and have these round tables, we just can't bring everybody in unless they're direct messaging in from one section. And then again, you don't get that flow and ebb, which goes on, Estebel.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
We just don't like to exclude anyone. So did I see Mike's hand go up or not?
No, I was just saying 100%.
Excellent.
Great stuff, Christa. Really loved it. And you prepared so much. Thank you.
And T-Rex, as in Trent Stevens, you've got obviously quite a number of people who are lucid dreaming people. And do you think they would be interested in having a Zoom event or coming across? Because it'd be interesting to get your take on tonight. If you can talk, that is. I'm obviously putting you on the spot at this. Normally picking people when they're actually driving and doing things. I've sent you an invite. Yeah, 100%. So that's good. So he's on for that. I'm not sure how many people are in from the continuing conversation. Oh, you got, yeah, excellent. Good. Yes. Welcome to feedback. You can talk to us about whether your group had much interaction. We saw there was some on Discord and interest. And obviously we could tailor it to a time that is useful to yourselves.
Yeah, I think that we would definitely be interested in joining in on that Zoom call. There are definitely members of my group that do not Twitter. So that would be fantastic.
Are there any of your people in tonight?
There definitely were. A few of them stopped in for a little bit. It's hard to wrangle them. We're a bunch of ADHD kids. We can't focus for this long. So you got us in piecemeal. I try and listen in as much as I can. Fine. But yeah. There were definitely some of us here tonight, and we would love to do a Zoom meet.
Excellent. It'd be nice to have the feedback as well to see how they feel about this environment. I mean, Tamara, she went recently to listen to Twitter Spaces actually talk, and I just caught the tail end of it. And she came back and said, I can't believe it. It was over in 30 minutes. Nothing like the marathon sessions that she's been to with us before. Not that we try to do marathon sessions, but... it's quite a fun event to suddenly figure out that 30 minutes is just too short. And again, these topics we cover, we're obviously surface skimming over even the 4 hours when there's so much depth to go into elsewhere, and obviously schedule those times.
Agreed. 4 hours is a really long time, but these topics deserve lifetimes. So I agree. I think it's awesome that people are interested to stick around this long and do it. I listen as much as I can. I'm just doing a zillion things at the same time to keep my mind going.
Oh, it's very much appreciated, as I keep saying, that people take their time out and come back. And again, I don't know if you noticed, but this is our 5-month anniversary today, which is quite good because we're going to have 6 months, hopefully, next when RN Vooght talks, and you'll be there for that one, I feel.
Absolutely. And we actually did a recording last weekend that's on all the podcast servers where we talked about these connections to these other groups, and your group was mentioned, and I definitely gushed about how awesome it was to find this community. So thank you for doing this. It's awesome. Listen to the pod and give feedback on it. It's the whole point. Continue the conversation.
That's very kind of you. I'll probably try and find the podcast link now while I let Christa start fielding questions and answers.
And Christa,
I don't see any
so
questions.
I thought you were going to say yourself.
For joining our group and filling in. It was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm new to Discord as of this week, so it's taken me a little time to get used to another app. But yeah, thanks for having me in.
Also, I'm getting messages from other places, as you do. And I've had a comment once I get into the right profile, so it gives it to me, that Meyer is obviously listening in via the browser, and you can't see him here on the actual app because it's only showing, obviously, phone apps. And he says that the Zoom call idea would be great. So we've got people showing up and saying that already. And again, we'll probably do it within the next, where are we? We could do it in the next couple of weeks if you wanted, Christa. Obviously, we can discuss this afterwards and make it fit time schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be going to Mardi Gras at the end of the month. Other than that, I'll be available.
Can we come?
Yes.
Take us on your phone. We'll be all there.
I did want to share, the importance of dreams for me. It's not just, entertainment or, now more of a practice, but it has played like pivotal parts of my life of having dreams just come to me and not realizing the importance until much later. And my husband and I, we have one son, and I dreamt about my son for the first time when I was 15 years old. And I dreamt about this baby, and it was one of those dreams where it just held a lot more weight. It was very potent. And I remember writing it in my journal that, like, that's crazy. I dreamt that I had a son. And through my life, I had my son when I was 33. Through my life, I dreamt about my son in various stages of his life throughout my life. And I was never baby crazy. I was never like a person that was like, I have to have a baby. I have to become a mother. I just, figured if I have a baby, that'd be great. Or I'm not hung up about it. But after I had my son, I realized all of these dreams were leading me right to him being born. And it wasn't until he was born that I was able to kind of put the puzzle together in a backwards fashion. And so it just reiterates that, I didn't create these synchronicities to conveniently end up at my son. I just wasn't able to see the synchronicities until he came into this world. And it's just a beautiful poetic reminder that, dreams aren't just defragmentations of our brain, or they aren't just symbols of our past lives. They're not just one thing. There are a lot of things at the same time that can seem contradictory, but ultimately they're just really beautiful. And as a reminder that, you can pull what you want out of the dreams, but just to remember that it is a reflection of you and connection to something greater than what we can explain. I did want to share that. I didn't want my talk to just be me storytelling all of my crazy dreams, because I've had some pretty crazy ones, but I wanted it to be informative and a useful tool for anyone that is willing to try it. But I also wanted to include some personal detail in there, because I'm still kind of blown away that he came, and it was this boy that I had no reason to dream of until I was able to kind of put it all together when he came. And he's 9 years old or 8 years old now. So it's I don't know, it's still just a beautiful story for me.
I mean, it's amazing, obviously, as we know, that most of the people in here will not pull the wool over people's eyes. And such a personal experience like that, again, you got a lot of people in here will actually be on the belief pattern here. But again, when you tell some other people, even you probably wouldn't believe it at that point, would you?
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, like Shadow Fox said, how do you know something, like, what evidence do you have? Like, evidence can mean, something concrete that other people can observe. Evidence can also just be your experience. And so maybe it would be hard for me to accept that as truth from someone else. But having that experience myself, I think I might now be willing to accept it if I heard it from someone else, because I can have compassion for just that inexplicability of a kind of a dream coming true, even if you didn't intend for it to come true,
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things we always try to pitch all the ideas to people who've never even contemplated some of these subjects. As I've recently been told that some of the ones in the previous 5 months, they've kind of shaken people up just by their own thought processes, not by anything we've actually said about them. It's the way they've received the information, and it's kind of broken down part of their paradigms in thinking. But then it's, in breaking it down, it's also given them more time to think about it, and then it's strengthened certain areas and made them feel better about it. So it kind of needed that breakdown period. And then sometimes some of the topics have been told that they're kind of scary. And you think, well, hopefully we haven't done it that way to make people scared in any way, but just the idea of existence going on, or the different forms it's in, or the way that you can experience reality. It's just, I mean, these people were saying that they liked listening to the way that we discuss, and it's an informal kind of environment, round table, and we just get on with the conversation. But it's strange that we've been immersed so long in talking about these subjects that we don't find it that jarring, where it can make some people feel jarred coming in, experiencing it, and they're coming back, whether it be on a regular basis or just infrequently. And it's just amazing to how people have taken to it.
Yeah, I think people are looking for that. I mean, I don't consider myself an expert on lucid dreaming, but I study it and I have an interest in it, and then by default I'm passionate about it. But I think people might feel like they need to be like an authority in order to talk in this space. But it's really, if you have an experience or opinion or some sort of investigation of something, then there is a space to have a conversation. It's just, it's beyond small talk. Like, we're all strangers. I actually know 2 of the people in this room, personally. But beyond that, I don't know you outside of this conversation, but just having the practice of being free to talk about things, holding that space, which is why I love the space that you've created, Paul, just so that we can have these conversations.
Well, thank you.
You've done good work.
Thank you. The whole point was just to be able to come and discuss concepts, whether you happen to just have questions. So, for example, if anyone wanted to just have one of these sessions where they've come up with a bunch of questions and want them answered, that's how it all works. You don't have to be a researcher. It can just be your own inquisitiveness, and we can possibly get people to come in who might be able to answer those questions from all angles, whether it be ones that you agree with, ones that you don't agree with, and you can work your way through it and expand. And it's all about the expansion and learning, from what I can feel, as well as making good friends along the way and having thoughtful discussions, as we've always said. I know Miro likes to come and play when he's got the option to not get on the crack side of his screen to get the mute button off.
I will come a little bit later. I'm almost home. My wife drive me. I had to pick up something from store. I'm just about a few minutes from home. So then I will come back.
Okay, that's fine. That's not a problem. So I'll just pick on Tamara now. Tamara, can you hear us? Well, I'll give you the invite to talk. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Asking if you can talk, and I haven't even given the option to. But no. And again, it's nice to see Jeffrey here, because I haven't seen Jeffrey for a while, in the way that things have been going on. Jeffrey, you got to come next, at least on the 8th of March, because it'd be the 6 months in. Tamara, did you pick that up? Excellent. Claire.
I haven't been on Twitter for a couple of days. I've been kind of laying low. So that
makes me ask strange questions of what shenanigans you've got up to.
Oh, I've been having heart problems. So I just been trying to see if just total rest would help, make it better.
And how are you feeling? Because you know got us all concerned.
Yeah, I'm feeling okay now. I keep my fingers crossed when I say that, but I'm probably going to have to go into the ER this week if it continues.
Okay. Is there anybody closer tomorrow who can go and look after it? Because we can't reach this X amount of miles from where I am.
Oh, I have somebody looking in on me here, so.
Excellent. Good.
It's just been a rough week.
I don't know. I got no kind of cardiac knowledge at the moment. I could find some people in here with a spoon that might be able to do some surgery if you need.
Oh God, a rusty spoon, right?
Well, if you want a rusty one, we can do anything. Dessert spoon, teaspoon, you name it. That's the way that we do our surgery in here. But no, I mean, as I said, even with the fact that you've got those conditions going on, that you come and talk to us and listen is fantastic.
Yeah, I wish I could participate more in the lucid dreaming talks. I haven't really had experience with it, and it's still kind of an unknown territory for me. It's a place where I usually can't remember what I dreamed most of the time.
Yeah, that is on the strange cases with the way that things go on. And I don't know if Red has the option to pick up, because Red can actually go into more detail about how he dreams. So we'll just see if he can pick that up. There we go. Good. Angel, right. Your icon's moving backwards and forwards. Welcome.
Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. I hope you're doing well as well.
I am. I was going to ask a question about kind of like lucid living. I guess kind of like synchronicities in a way. I know I've talked about synchronicities before. We have. Does anybody ever compare it more to like lucid living? When things kind of happen and kind of go with, like on track. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I would say that there's moments where you feel like you're in the right channel, or there's kind of momentum behind you, like there's a hand behind you. Having synchronicities like almost multiply within a very short time frame. It does feel like sometimes that happens, like you're just kind of being pushed down the river a lot faster than you expect it to be. And if anything, if it's just making you more aware and present and mindful of the moment, like being very, very present, like John, who was on here earlier, had said, that the reality is a dream, but when we're in a meditative state and you're kind of creating an awareness, like that is the clarity, that is the awakening within the dream of this reality. So I don't know that I've never considered calling it lucid living, but I feel like I know what you mean. It's just feeling like you're riding a wave, and being aware that you're riding a wave at the same time.
Yeah, very big wave. Kind of makes you want to go back to sleep.
I think we're getting a better grip on where we're going with this and how it all interfaces. That the more liminal the mind is, the more information you kind of pick up, whether you're dreaming or meditating and not focusing your attention to, multiple things like chopping up grapefruit. That could take you away from your liminal state unless you're doing 1,000 of them. And you could actually pick up that information in that dream state, especially when you're going into sleep. The amount of random things that kind of go before you actually hit sleep is amazing, when you can actually hear sounds as well as the visual parts of that. I think most people find the same thing when they're just in that slight section of hypnagogic state, or not. You have to look for hands for that to see where it goes from. If anybody wants to actually ask a question who hasn't got an invite to speak, just obviously request the ability. There you are, Sheena.
I was just going to say that the best way I could probably describe it, I imagine most people have had times when they've been asleep, they've been deeply asleep, and then they get a loud noise or something. And for a moment, they're not quite sure where they are. And then the realization hits them, oh, I'm awake. Lucid dreaming is very similar to that, because you're conscious, your mind is fully conscious as if you were awake. And then you get a sudden realization where you think, I'm asleep. And that's the best way I can describe it, really.
I'm going to hand that one over to Christa.
Yeah, that's it's just to help guide someone to do that when they're asleep. It's harder because most of us have had that experience once we've woken up, and you have that. It is similar, it's just on the flip side. And so it's hard to know to do that when you're dreaming, to realize that you're awake, as opposed to when you wake up and you realize that you were dreaming. I did want to throw a few names out there. They're not on Twitter much, but there's a woman her name is Tree Carr, Carr, and she's on Instagram, and she is a really excellent lucid dream guide. She does every couple of days on Instagram. She does live events, and she posts a lot, and she hosts lucid dreaming retreats. She's American, but she's based in London, and she's great. She's a really great, positive lucid dreamer in the community. And I'll share her handle here. And then Dave Green, who is also a lucid dreamer, he's pretty active on Instagram. And both of them, if you're interested in the subject, I feel like they're good ones to follow, just to kind of keep up with what's going on. And Anthony Peake has a YouTube episode with Dave Green, and I'll send that to you, Paul, if you want to post that.
Oh, yeah,
it's
that'd be great.
About an hour long, but they had a really interesting synchronicity, and this kind of wraps it up to where I started with it. So Dave Green is a lucid dream portrait artist. So he's a very active lucid dreamer, has been a lifelong lucid dreamer. And what he does is that he will meet you over Zoom, and so that you can he can see your face and he can talk to you. And he did this with me. We talked for a long time, and he's a really funny guy, and he will kind of get an imprint of you, and then he will spend the next couple of days trying to bring you into his dream. And then what his process is when you come into his dream, he holds up a piece of paper and puts it in front of your face, and either he will draw an image or an image will just appear over your face. And then he'll wake himself up, and in the waking world, he'll draw that image out. And so it's your portrait. And so he and I met on FaceTime, and we talked for a long time. And then a few days later, he had a lucid dream with me, and he drew my portrait. Well, the night that he drew my portrait, as I was going to bed, I was early in my lucid journey and had not had a lucid dream yet. But my intention when I went to bed that night was to send him an image, to send him some sort of something, and to see if it infiltrated into his dream. And I didn't tell him I was doing this. I just was using that as my motivation when I went to bed. So when I was going to bed, I sent him an image of a sun with rays going out, like a sunflower with rays going out. And that was just that. It was like a center core with lines kind of going outward, like a sunflower or a sun. And the portrait that he drew of me, what mimicked that. I'll find it now while I'm talking so that I can put it up. But it kind of blew my mind. It was like, how did that get over to him? I didn't tell him that I was doing that. And when he sent it to me, I was a little blown away. I mean, his portraits are pretty, they're elementary, they're not detail. All right, so I'm going to post this here. And the same thing happened when he did this with Anthony Peake. So the night that he dreamed of Anthony Peake, after he and Anthony had met, he drew Anthony Peake's portrait with Anthony, or with a man holding out a staff, like he was giving him a staff. And what was wild was that Anthony, the night before, had found a walking stick that had belonged to his father or his uncle, and he was sitting there holding it. And when Dave Green drew this and showed it to Anthony, Anthony was blown away, because he was like, that was literally me last night, holding this stick. So again, it furthers this, how do you reconcile that? To me, it leaves that door open of, what dreams can mean beyond what we can scientifically prove. It leaves that door open for magic of communication in another way that we're used to having communication in another realm. So I shared the picture. It's a circle within a circle within a circle, and there's faces kind of drawn all in it. And that was the portrait that Dave drew of me. And with that, I'll take a question or two, but then I do need to go, as I do have a little boy, so I'll need to get back to him.
Excellent. Red has now turned up and got the option to talk now, I think. So I know that you wanted to kind of talk about the way that you have the detailed oversaturation with colors and detail, yeah? If you can, Red, or not. If you can't talk, use the peace symbol. If not, I know Miro was here and he was going to get in the house. I feel like I'm putting everyone on the spot. It's always much easier when hands are up than you can actually pick on that.
Okay, good evening, good day.
Hello.
I am back. I'm finally back home. Just a few minutes ago, I was listening. I have to thank you, Paul, and all of what you are here, because for me, what is important, I'm noticing. So far, I was able to observe consciousness or my mind from inside my brain, and now you are sharing these stories, your testimonies, and I can see how you see your consciousness from your side of, a point of view, I never took dreams very seriously. I enjoy them, I love them, but I just observe them, and sometimes I miss them, and. I had also flighting dreams and floating dreams, and same as any other people. And sometimes, like recently, I was kind of wondering, I didn't have some dreams for a longer time. And when I was preparing myself for sleeping, to cool my mind a little bit of meditation, I started noticing that that I can see images when I close my eyes. Everything is dark in me. I have a very dark room when I sleep. I want to, and I start to see those images. Sometimes not just geometric images, but then start to come places and faces, and some collage. So now I'm looking forward when I'm gonna have to go bed, so I can enjoy those images. I don't do anything about them. Just I observe them and I enjoy them. So I don't know. Now usually I got some idea after this place is over. Sometimes in the evening or sometime next day, I got some ideas, like a revelation, like you, Paul, mentioned. But sometimes it's click later. So that's happened to me. So. I will see what happened. For sure, I am already getting some ideas about these things, and I have from somebody had before. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Christa. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Excellent. Because obviously we'll rope you into the next lucid dreaming one if you're getting ideas as well. So I think that's going to be a real good eye opener.
Like how I see dreams, hopefully I didn't interrupt anyone. Dream is just another form of consciousness. Consciousness has three forms, wake up consciousness, dream consciousness, and deep sleep consciousness. So everything is consciousness. Dreams are also consciousness.
Definitely, because reality is probably still a reality within the dream state as well, because you can't put it into a bottle and take it to one side because it's always happening. And you don't know where you've actually gone at that point of being, let's say your body's unconscious, but your consciousness could be still roaming and picking up or being picked up by other places.
Yeah, how I see consciousness it's out of space and time, or actually time and space arise from consciousness. So probably when we have dreaming, we might pick up part of the consciousness, because how I see, we are experiencing a reflected consciousness, as per my view. So when we are dreaming, we might pick up, some consciousness that is this in different time and space that our body is, so that's how I can explain to myself, that some people have dreams about something that happened in the near future or happened in past. So, because is part of our consciousness that happened, and everything is happening now.
Oh, definitely. I'm on board with everything happens now, and we got no kind of grip on what time is. And I'm going to pass it over to Sheena.
In terms of consciousness, given the fact that most atoms are nothing but empty space, and we're made of atoms, all we know is what we perceive. I can't even say 100% that I have a physical body. I perceive a physical body. Do I have one? The only thing I know 100% is that I exist. I could be stark raving mad and stuck in a lunatic asylum somewhere with my hands tied behind my back. If I don't perceive it, I don't know it. The only thing that I know is that my consciousness exists, and that's it. Everything is consciousness as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in my honest opinion, that's where I'm thinking, and I've probably said it before, and people will hear me say it again, that consciousness has everything evolved inside it, like universes, galaxies, dimensions, and all that. But the problem is, I want to try and figure out where consciousness came from, because to me, it's all a paradox, because you can't get something from nothing. And if you want to have a reaction from something, you need two or more. And where do you get those from if you want to kind of start off from that point? It gets to a wonderful conversation, which will probably go on for hours, which is one of the topics we will do at some point. Does anybody have any questions for Christa? I know, Red, are you there now or convenient to talk?
Yes, hello.
Excellent. Glad you could make it.
So, pardon me if I slow down every now and then, because with my experience, I've had I guess what I would describe as an NDE, a near-death experience. The tricky thing about my situation is that I was in the hospital for 6 days with an infection that had started in my toe, but in a matter of it getting worse, it actually spread from my toe and climbed all the way up my groin in about 3 hours, as I finally drove myself to the hospital in the last half hour or so, because I thought I could still make it, which I did, of course. But towards the end of this 6-day stint in the hospital, the reason I say that my experience is a little tricky is because somebody asked me if I had a near-death experience. And although I was hooked up to machines to just monitor blood pressure and heart rate, I was not in the ICU. And I guess the tricky part comes in is that if I didn't technically die according to the machines, I still saw, I guess, what most would perceive as what's called the light. It was more of an experience that is mostly not comprehensible to beyond religious, let's say that. The way that I have described it has either been, I use the term enlightening or awakening. I don't know if it's like having a peek behind the universe, but you have so much information and emotion coming through you that you mentally don't know what to do with it. It's sometimes it's knowledge about very, very complex, I would go as far as to say quantum physics / string theory, things that are very complicated that I've never read about but somehow understand.
You're definitely in the right room for that. People have had experiences similar to what you've gone through and had that kind of information, which, again, we classify it in the word download, so that they understand more than they did prior to the event.
Yeah. That seems to be when this, whatever is inside of me, has been activated. It's something that I've always had. Lots of deja vu, clairvoyance, very intuitive, can read situations without having to hear everybody's tone, I guess you could say. I guess you people call it reading a room, but it's way more intuitive than that. You can pick up on energy. That's another thing that has changed drastically. My hearing, my frequencies are off the charts, very acute. But it's also put.
Could I just pause you there, Red? Because Chris has just got to go. I want to say thank you very much for all your time and effort.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Paul. Sorry, I have to run, but
No, that's okay.
I gotta go.
You've spent an amazing amount of time with us, and we're obviously scheduled the next one between us and let people know about it.
Great. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Does anybody want to say thank you with icons or voice?
Thank you very much.
So there's a lot of appreciation, so that's great.
Thank you a lot.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Speak to you soon.
Bye. Good night.
Okay, Red, continue, please.
So, what I guess some of the stuff that I'm struggling with, it seems to have, I call it the universe. I don't know what other people call it. It's what I saw was like it's hard to describe, but basically everything but different, but all together flowing as one humongous. It would lead me to believe that every person on this planet is 100% connected. They just don't know how to tap into it. Let's leave it at that.
Oh, no. I mean, you're onto the quantum theory entanglement bit, where if you've listened to Stephen Hawkins and Herzog talk, they got a top-down theory of the way that matter and everything came about. And the quickest way to do this, and I've explained this before, imagine that you got a glass, which is a cylinder, with a little bit of water in it, a little bit of dish soap, and also a straw. And when you blow your first bubble, that first bubble's your first universe with all probabilities in it. When the second bubble comes up and the first one bursts, all the probabilities and all the events that have happened before in the first universe are layered onto the next bubble. And if it keeps on happening until you got one final bubble, and say you've gone through 20 different bubbles, you got all that information. And then when you've got things created within that bubble, whether it be person, planet, all the information is in all the kinds of bits of energy within it and entangled in a way so that you can actually, if you had the opportunity, you could access it and have that information, if that makes sense. To you, Red.
Well, in a way, yeah. So that's why it is daunting to have this amount of information that I previously would just it's so that let's get on to the other part. It seems that I can go places in my dreams that have otherwise been off limits. And I'm talking, it seems realms beyond the earth. I don't know what else to make of it. I know that the one lady was talking about twin flames. That is a concept that is, I would say, spot on. I think that you meet many people that are on a similar trajectory as yourself, just as humans going through this little minute amount of time that we have on this earth. I think that you come across people that have similar trajectories, just not the same. I think it's happened to me more than once that I've met someone that's close to what you would describe as a twin flame, but you know that it's not, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't want to get too far off topic. It just seems that ever since this thing has been activated, the synchronicity is unbelievable. And I've been able to, at least twice in person, manipulate. I don't know if I'm going to say this right, because sometimes it's hard to find the words. I've been able to show 2 or 3 different people the difference between paying attention to what's going on and not, and it has opened their eye. Like they were skeptics before we had an in-depth conversation, and in the matter of a day or two, they were asking me all kinds of questions, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And it seemed like the more distance that I kept myself from them, then things would dissipate. But if I was around them, the coincidences that were happening, they started to even say, okay, this is starting to get strange. So I'll pause there. I don't know if anybody has questions, and I could be going off on the wrong tangent for a minute, so I'll leave it there for now.
No, that's going to be good to investigate further. Obviously, we're on the lucid dreaming bit and the intensity and what was going on there. Sheena has got something to put to that, I think, because she's got a very good set of information.
I was just going to say that, first of all, Red, there is no wrong. There is no going off on the wrong tangent. There is no saying the wrong thing. But I was just going to say that in reference to what you were saying, there's two sayings that spring to my mind, and the older I get, the truer they seem. One is the Native American saying that we're not the web of life, we're just a strand in it. And the other one is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I wanted to say thank you to Christa, but I got booted out of the room, unfortunately. But
that wasn't anything to do with us. I think that was just software-wise.
I know it was just a technical glitch. It's happened a couple of times, but it was just at precisely the wrong time, because I did want to say thank you to her.
I'll pass that on to her for you.
Thank you.
Well, no, I mean, all the insights when we're looking at these things are just amazing when we're trying to overlap the way things that can be expressed. I've just seen somebody who was actually passing information. Yeah, so it's been really good. I'd be fascinated to know if Sarah can use her icons or not, because Sarah turns up on a regular basis. Jeffrey, how you doing? Just see if you're there. And also, who else was here? Actually, the way that the topics of conversation are going so far are fantastic, because we're learning so much together. And again, it's all about perspective, whether it's cultural or whether it's just each individual's life experiences that allows us to know a bit more, whether it be books or other ways to express ourselves, whether it be art, sculpture, or just tinkering with engineering, or just being able to tell stories to entertain people. And these sessions just bring so much. So, Jeffrey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Thanks.
That's good. How are you finding the topic of lucid dreaming?
Very interesting. Yes, I did a few lucid dreamings a while, but then for no reason it stopped happening to me. I'm not sure why, but yeah, I should have asked a question somehow.
Oh, don't worry. We're scheduling to have a second one in a Zoom environment for those people that didn't have the opportunity to actually say anything. Sheena?
I just wanted to ask if Jeffrey has had any trouble sleeping, because I know the more overtired I get, if I have a lack of sleep, the less likely I am to lucid dream.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my sleep is very bad at the moment, so maybe a reason indeed.
That's a good point to bring up. I've just seen the account called Wave Art, and I have to say, like your banners and also your profile icon. And anybody else got anything to put on the table at this present time? This room's going to be open for another 10 minutes or so. Excellent. And let's make sure I don't get your name wrong.
Hello.
Is that Roddy?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. I was thinking about the what Jeffrey said about the hours of sleep. And when you have like less lucid dreams is when you sleep the less. If you sleep like more than 10 hours, it's probably gonna happen to you.
Okay, yeah, I see. But I mean, I only had like 2 or 3 lucid dreamings, and then for no reason, I mean, it stopped, and then I kept on doing the reality test. But yeah, I mean, my sleep is terrible at the moment, so it may be it's a good point.
Yeah, so do you get an average of, 6 or 7 hours sleep a night, Jeffrey?
Yeah, but I'm an insomniac, so I can't...
Yeah, so that's going to reduce your sleep pattern.
Yeah. Even if I go to bed very early, I don't fall asleep until 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, so it's very difficult, yeah.
Do you find listening to something helps you fall asleep, or do you need complete silence or complete darkness or a distraction to the brain thinking?
Yeah, complete silence, I would say, yeah.
I know some people that need complete darkness to actually sleep, and also some that obviously require no audio, where if I'm trying to go to sleep, I need to listen to something to kind of stop me from thinking thoughts of how to solve problems or what books I should be reading. So it's kind of a self-hypnotism kind of routine.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see.
So tomorrow, do you have something on that kind of level of the way that you get to sleep or need to get to sleep?
Yes, I can't sleep unless I hear something in the background. Usually voices help me fall asleep.
So do you spy on other people, or do you just have audio on, which is music or kind of shows from the internet, like audio shows?
Yeah, I usually let Netflix or Tubi go on. Like, I mean, sometimes I guess I wake up and there's a horror movie that's started playing, and it's kind of weird to wake up to. But
I think that would kind of influence your dream.
I mean, that's funny. I can't remember what I'm dreaming, but sometimes I do have nightmares, and they kind of mingle with waking up to something unpleasant that's playing on Netflix or or Tubi or whatever.
Can I recommend you playing kind of comedy tracks to yourself or half-hour shows instead of trying to have these horror kind of images?
Yeah, but comedy tends to wake me up.
Okay.
It's funny.
Well, you have to find something which isn't along those horrific kind of angles. Maybe a cookery show. That'd be good.
Hopefully it's not the one where the lead chef is criticizing the apprentices.
Oh, yeah, Gordon Ramsay, if that's the one that you're thinking of.
Yeah,
Right.
probably.
You'll learn some new curse words so that you'll be able to incorporate into your vocabulary. That'd be good for you. In an English accent. That'd be quite fascinating.
Yeah, I think like the weirdest waking up to the wrong movie. I think it was Nightmare on Elm Street. Talking about
hopefully
dreams.
it wasn't the latest version. The latest version wasn't as good as the original.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty dead on arrival.
It had very good colors and the kind of way that they lit the environments, but just unfortunately the storyline was not very strong as the original.
Yeah. You know what? You mentioned the man in the dreams with the fedora hat.
Yep.
Is there any connection to that?
I don't know if it's Nightmare on Elm Street, but it'd be interesting because obviously the podcast called Strange Familiars, which is worthwhile listening to, talks about Flannel Man, who is basically a guy who turns up in a red and black check flannel shirt like a lumberjack, and he's been seen around different places. And where you've got occurrences of like UFOs and then suddenly you see the Men in Black turn up, they've had, if you've seen Bigfoot, suddenly Flannel Man turns up, or possibly Flannel Man turns up in your dreams in your bedroom. And they're also kind of cross-referencing that to this guy who is called the Hat Man. If no one knows about him, he is just basically a silhouette of a man with a black hat on, which is like a fedora, if you want to think of the old 1930s American detective movies. And he turns up being very silent, but just skulking around. And that is a strange kind of thing to be thinking about. And not many people go to bed thinking about that kind of shape or person to wake up to thinking of seeing in their rooms.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, I don't know how far back the fedora hat man goes, but that was part of the Freddy Krueger wardrobe.
Oh, yeah. Because there's a lot with just the silence of these characters turning up. And they're always out of place with the flannel man and the fedora wearing one. Because people just go, why would I be seeing, if I was a small child, waking up to suddenly finding basically a silhouette of a man walking around with a black fedora hat on? And of course, kids don't know the name fedora, but they start drawing it, and it's that kind of shape.
Unless it's Indiana Jones.
Yeah, well, if it's anything like what they think the film's going to be, time travel, it could be. You never know. I'm not too sure how that's going to play out with their plot line. But they did use Scotland for America, which was quite interesting to see.
It's funny, I've never had those in my dreams that I remember, but I do remember, I don't know if you could call it a shadow person, but usually it's like a dark fuzzy spot that I remember in dreams.
We might just open that up. Does anybody ever remember waking up or seeing something unusual shape-wise that shouldn't have been in a room or around them, which wasn't, we're going to say loosely, human in that kind of shape? Put your hand up or give me some indication. Okay, not hitting anything there. Lucky enough, no one's had that experience and scared themselves. So that's good, because it would be a crazy kind of thing to have that. So, by the way, people, I am actually got on the 8th of March, we have R.N. Vooght, the author, who will be doing one of these sessions talking about his book. but we're also discussing with Anthony Peake to do a session in April, which will be 4 hours split between 2 the morning and the afternoon, and come and meet the author. And they've been very successful in the past. We've had 4 of those at least. So put those in your diary. And if you haven't been to the Linktree URL in the bio, which is link and then tr.ee/perceptions today, that's where we've got all the different events, mailing lists, so that we send out an email telling you when the different ones are on. And also there's a direct contact for emailing experiences or research or books. So you can either contact via Twitter, YouTube and other places. And it's always worthwhile connecting onto. Just out of curiosity, anyone signed up for our mailing list here? Because I know Miro has, and hopefully he's seen it turn in his inbox. Have you seen it, Miro?
No, I didn't see my inbox yet, so I will have a look.
Check your spam folder, because it might have disappeared into there. But we're trying to avoid that, which would be good.
I haven't seen it either.
Have you signed up for the
No,
mailing
I
list?
haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
Okay, so if you go to the bio and you see the link where it's got Linktree on the
Okay.
Twitter account here. So
All right.
that'd be good. And then that's one of the quick ways of making sure people don't miss out on seeing the events, as people were missing them as tweets were going down people's timelines because they're following loads of different people, which again can always be a problem. Excellent, Tamara. So that's good. Everyone seems to have enjoyed themselves, getting messages saying that they've enjoyed the topic. Seeing the voice had just fall away. Oh, look at that. There goes the voice entirely. It's off on a wonder. So I might have to close this down even quicker than I thought, because, yeah.
Okay. Phantasm did just give you the peace symbol.
Excellent. Got it right. That's good. Excellent. Thank you very much again for turning up and taking time out to listen to all the bits and pieces that have been going on. And obviously we'll be doing it again and again. Obviously, we have the podcast that you can listen to. Again, that's in the link up above. And if you want any feedback or you fancy getting involved in anything, then just contact us through either Twitter or through the direct mailing system that we've set up. Things are going on, and it's just nice to learn and connect with people and find out what's going on and how they're learning about things.
Just thank you.
Good night. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
That's no problem.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for
Bye.
turning up. And Jeffrey,
Thanks, Paul.
good to see you. Superb. Right. Hopefully, again, it's always worthwhile following the Twitter account if you see the events, because we tend to pin them up on the pinned tweet if we've got anything going on, if you miss them. So hopefully we'll speak to you soon.
Night.
To help our research and understanding, leave Perceptions Today's podcast reviews, subscribe to the podcast, along with the other social media accounts, and share. Come and join our live events. That way we can get together and have thoughtful discussions along with advancing our understanding of concepts as we go along.